Should we let him in?
The executive producer in the booth just said, go ahead, let him in.
We have enough chairs? We get the chairs.
There's plenty of seats up front. People just want to.
Come on down. Don't be shy.
Welcome to our little session today. It's going to be a bit of a janky session as we enter the janky time machine. So the plan is we're trying something out. We just said, let's just do this live. We talked about it for a bit, and at the risk of continuing to talk about it, we decided we're just going to do this thing. We're going to test it out, see how it goes. I think we've got some plans on doing this a little bit more regularly. I'm going to probably continue to do stuff like add maybe tutorials on how I do the AI Photoshop mockup composition, how I actually turn design fiction ideas into tangible artifacts to consume and enjoy. But today what we're going to do is play with the cards. And there's no one way to do it. There are many ways that you can do it. We're going to just freestyle and figure something out. And if at any point you would have a question or you want to participate, just raise your little Zoom hand. I think there's a little button at the bottom down there that makes you raise your hand. And Nick De Palma, our announcer, is going to unmute you and invite you to participate. And we're just going to keep this free flowing and easygoing, and we're going to have a good time.
Yeah, I love it. Cool. And we're gonna mess up plenty. We're gonna have to stop shooting, kind of reset.
Yeah, reset. Do the takeover again.
Some lights.
We're gonna do the takeover again. All right. So on my side here, I've got this fantastic box. If you don't have this, you should definitely pick it up. It is a work of wonder. And today we're going to play with the cards. Now, we've got different decks inside. You'll notice that there is an archetype deck. There's an object deck.
It's deck. I usually refer to them as faces. What do they call them? Or what are they called? Two of clubs. What is that?
I don't know. That would be a suit. Yeah.
Suit.
Yeah.
That's right. Suit.
Yeah. All right. So we've got the action suit, and there's the attributes suit here. Now this is pared down from your previous deck, Julian. Your previous deck had a let's see, I've got one kicking around here somewhere. You had
five, I think.
Yeah, you had the tone card in your previous deck.
Yeah. Can I explain to you why that was
yeah.
returned?
Yeah.
So it was purely a logistics thing, because it turns out with the extra cards, the deck went above 8 ounces, and so it was harder to ship to the places that we end up shipping. So it was like a purely practical decision. I knew I had to trim about 26 cards in order to make it, not have to, because it's already, when we sell the decks, we subsidize a significant portion of the shipping, because it's just crazy to ship little things around the world. And so it was actually one of the things that we're talking about doing is, like, if we had near future laboratory squads in whatever major capital cities, then we could be much more efficient getting these things around, and we could expand the deck. So anyway, that was just a conversation we're having with some of our team in Japan.
That's interesting. I like the tone deck, or the tone suit, because it had some really interesting things that you could do. But you
could add it into the mix. There's nothing to say you can't.
Well, hang on, let me just reach here. I've got everything is in.
Isn't there always that deck of cards at the at the cabin in the woods that you go to like 2 or 3 times a year? Sometimes it's just mixed cards because you're missing, because at one point someone in frustration threw down their bad hand at poker, and the cards got lost forever. So you're
or somebody played that old joke, have you ever played 52 pickup?
Yeah.
They're like, no, and then they riffle the cards all over the room. All right, pick it up.
That's right.
Yeah, the just so that the tone deck included.
That was from the previous edition of the deck.
Like a show, solar punk, carbon based. if Rolex made it war zone. So if you did want to incorporate the tone deck, you could probably just pick up the last version of the work kit if it's still in stock.
Totally sold out.
Totally sold out. Well, guess what? You'll have to wait for Julian to create the expansion pack.
Oh yeah, expansion pack's a good idea.
Yeah, expansion pack with dragons and wizards.
I like that. I never even thought about that. That's a project. Oh.
There you go. That's why I'm here. All right, cool. So let's talk about the individual things. The archetype, which is, I think the central position of the artifact. It's the evidence to the implication. It's the hint to that future that we're pointing at. I like to look at the object as I like to look at it as, this is the science fiction, this is the design fiction. The science fiction might be the technology, the societal dilemma, whatever it is. This is what you're kind of inventing. The attribute, there's a whole bunch of different attributes here, like generative pre-trained. So this seems like it's signals, right? Blockchain. How would you define the attributes beyond the word attribute?
It's like it's a characteristic. It's kind of like an undergirding set of like a system or principle, or and if you want to really dig down to it, it's like a specific technology idiom, category of a thing, a quality of it in a way is what I think of as attribute.
Mm-hmm. And then lastly is the action. The action is maybe the functionality. We've got to translate, tokenize, compress, institutionalize, memify or go viral, sonify, deep fake, geolocate, surveil. So this is like this specific thing that happens, and whether it's part of the technology or part of I like to think of the technology, the societal dilemma, and everything in between, the hard and the soft, I guess. I think when you combine all of these together, and what I like to do is kind of do these three cards first: object, attribute, and action, and then the archetype is it's not that I'm doing it first, it's I'm doing it separately. I'm thinking about this separately than I'm thinking about these three. I don't know how you think about it when you're doing
I like that. I oftentimes because I so much enjoy thinking about the archetype. It's not necessarily that I start about that, but I sort of have it kind of in mind. So I will pull an archetype and be like, okay, let's see how it, let's see where it sort of guides my mind. 'Cause I think I start with the container, which is what I think the archetype of is, like if it's a billboard ad or a beverage drink or something, container. Yeah, I just really like archetypes.
Okay, well, that's a good thing to think about. So the archetype.
Oh, sorry, someone mentioned the 70-20-10 deck. Steve mentioned.
Oh, Steve, yeah.
Suit.
All right, so my audio is dropping a little bit as I turn my head, and that is because this is a dynamic microphone that I have to eat. So I'm going to be mindful of that. And if I'm not, Nick, just go yo, and I will come back to it. All right. So as far as the archetype goes, there are a lot of different archetypes. Isabella on Discord created this wonderful archetype Pinterest board that shows a whole bunch of different design fiction archetypes, ranging from user manuals to repair guides to name tags to museum passes. And this is a nice way to create a variety of design fiction. And when I do my design fiction daily, I try to be cognizant that I'm not repeating the same thing over and over again. Advertising is a really it's a fruitful way to express design fiction because you can load it up with a lot of stuff. You can put copy in there, even though it breaks the rules of advertising by having too much copy and over explaining. It makes for fantastic storytelling. So I try not to do too many ads and balance it out with other things, like remembering, oh, I need a repair manual, or I should do something like a birthday card, or what about a sign on the road? So when we look at the archetypes, we'll just take a quick peek at what we've got going on over here. I'll move these out of the way. Point this closer to me. Whoops. Now we've got a lay flat thing, which is like knolling. We've got a ticket. We've got a trend report, instruction manual. So one way that I might do it when I'm doing a design fiction daily is I might scan the archetypes and try to find something that I might not have done. That's a good challenge. It's like, oh, I haven't done like out of here. It's funny. I think I've done most of these. Let me look around here. There's a spec sheets, retro signage, product review, quick start guide, coffee mug, hygiene product. I've literally done every single one of these. Receipt, press release, a map of some sort. I like this idea of a map of some sort because it's open. There's like, okay, of some sort. I don't know what that is. I don't think this is a very terrible camera, so it doesn't focus very well. But I think Julian, we should play with a map of some sort.
I like it.
All right,
I like
cool.
maps of some sort.
So here's a good way. Another way we could have done this is we could have just randomly chosen a card off of the top of the deck and let chance ride the old chance wagon. But
which is to say that there's no hard and fast way. So this isn't like just to emphasize that this is for those of you who remember the unstructured play when you were kids, if you were allowed to do that, this very much falls in that category. So one question I'll get, maybe 2 out of every 100 questions I'll get about this is like, well, what are the rules? And then you sort of know the character of the person who asked that. And because if you say there are no rules, it doesn't really make sense. But the point is to really kind of find your way of imagining that you've gone to some other adjacent now or some near future or whatever it is, and you found an artifact. And that's what we're doing here. We're constructing the artifact from this particular world. Like some of you probably heard me say, it's like you're an archaeologist, but rather than digging into the past, you're digging into the future.
Yeah.
Archaeologists, you find a thing, like it might be a coffee mug, it might be a map, it might be some kind of consumer packaged good, and that's what we're trying to construct here. There's no right or wrong answer. It's more the exercise. It's like, what's the point of running if you're just going to come back to where you started?
Trip in the chat is characterizing this as a recipe, which I love. It's like, oh, we should really use this map of some sort because it's like it's been in the fridge for a while and it's going to go bad if we don't do something with it. So let's prioritize this as our main ingredient.
Love it.
That's really good. And then Rizwan asks a question here. If you haven't created one of these archetypes before, do you research it beforehand? Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of these archetypes are like in this example, for instance, like a lot of archetypes, we've all seen a menu, we've all seen an instruction manual, and there are many types of instruction manuals. Like think of like IKEA. That's a very classic instruction guide that we could riff off without too much research. But a map, I've seen a bunch of maps. I'd probably need to research the legend. I think the legend would be an important aspect in the archetype to help develop that story a little bit more. The little characters that you might create, the names
for things.
The topology, yeah, the names that you give things. Like when we did the magazine, the Emotional magazine, Julian, we had that one map of Yosemite, and we chose a character from our universe, the choked elk, and we created choked elk mountain and created a little icon of like an elk upside down with X's for eyes, and it just added to this character, which I thought was.
And I think it's a really good question, because I think that's part of the work is to really study the archetype itself. And almost like I'm a big map person, so I think that's why this one ended up in the deck, is like looking at what different how do maps make sense, help you make sense of the world, and studying them as if it it really mattered. So you don't want to and that's part of the process of like kind of learning how do you represent things from possible worlds. So collecting these things is part of it, and then studying them really extensively, the ways in which advertisements are presented, if an advertisement or a billboard, and its sparse use of text, and just looking at the ways in which, as if your job was to make a map. Like, you wouldn't just be like, okay, here, I think I'm done. You'd want to get it to feel as if it was a thing coming from a world, and then in the final iteration, if you're going to take the idea to to the point of like production, like actual manufacturing of the menu or of the map, you would want all those details right, so that when you share it with someone, they're not like, oh, this is a cute drawing. They're kind of like, wait, what is this? Where's this a map from? You want that level of believability.
Yeah, the process is, this is a writing process is what we're doing. This is a fun game. And just like writing, as you write, you start to come up with ideas, and then you want your ideas to be good. You want your writing to be good. So you have to inform yourself if you're not already familiar with the subject matter. And you might be a little bit familiar, but it might be a matter of becoming even more. A good example was when I was doing a design fiction, when I did the e-coffee and e-cigarettes entry the other day. That was based off of something, Julian, you said in your last podcast. You had mentioned something about like the extinction of coffee beans. And I thought, oh, that's cool. I like that idea. That's a good idea to play with. And I just happened to be on Discord with Drew while he was working on a flat plan for another project. And I told him what I was doing. And then he had said, oh yeah, there's this fungus called rust. And that, okay, rabbit hole, went down the rust rabbit hole. I learned about it. I even mentioned its scientific name in there, like I knew what I was talking about. But yeah, definitely research involved. Let's get to the next deck. The object deck. So this one, what do you say? Do you want to do a random? You want to ride the chance wagon on this one and see what comes up?
We could do that, sure.
You can say yay or nay. Oh, a vertical takeoff and landing, or VTOL.
Yeah.
Drone thing.
Okay.
Are we feeling it? Or
I'm feeling that. Yeah, I feel like that's connecting in some way.
All right, let's do it. All right, so we have this VTOL, and at any point we can change these cards or add to the cards if we want. Let's take a look at the attributes here. I'm going to shuffle the deck, and then I'm just going to flip a card over. If we like it, we'll use it. If we don't like it, we can not use it. So attribute number 1 we have here, it's playful.
Okay.
I mean, I'm into playful.
Yeah. Well, we got things that are flying and they're playful and maps, so this is all feeling okay.
Well, there's also mesmerizing. We could do playful and mesmerizing, kind of mash up.
Okay.
Here, let's do this. Well, let's call it the playful or mesmerizing. It depends on what we're feeling. And then the action, what's it doing? I like playful and mesmerizing. I think there's playful feels active, mesmerizing feels passive. You can be playful and mesmerizing, passive, playful. It adds a new dynamic to it. All right, so the action, what does it do? Gamify. I feel like that, it's good, but maybe it's obvious. Maybe we'll try a different one. What about?
Discard.
Oh, that's weird. Speaking of discard, be sure to join the Discord when you get a chance. I think there's something there.
You think you feel okay? Well, I'm going to trust you on the discard. Nothing was clicking right away, but I'm curious to see where it goes.
Well, I think that's the reason why I was choosing it, because nothing was clicking for me right away, which is like, okay, I'm gonna imagine harder. We're gonna have to imagine harder on this. All right, I'm just gonna take a quick peek at the thing. Okay, hey Dave, do you have a map of the janky time machine? How do you know where you're going? Dave, we do not have a map of the janky time machine.
When he meant when, I think.
Oh, how do you know when you're going? Where? Well, yeah, when you're going. But no, there is no map of the janky time machine. It kind of works. It does take you into the future. We do know that. When and where it takes you
to an adjacent now, but that's that just could be me.
Sorry, hang on. Let me just go through the chat here.
Sure.
All I know is that there's a button that says do not press that we're not allowed to press.
And a dial for the time that just doesn't seem to be mechanically connected to anything. It's kind of like a floppy dial.
It feels a lot like tuning in an old television where you're somewhere, you're in the liminal space between channel 2 and channel 5. and you have to bang the side of it, and it might get you to like channel 4.1. You don't quite go there. It does often take you to very specific places like kitchens and bodegas and playgrounds, with just these random everyday places. It seems to where it likes to go.
The equally serious reason is that I think if we start putting times on things, then we've added too much structure to the exercise. And so just imagining that it's a possible place and time rather than a specific one. If you start doing specific dates, then someone inevitably chimes in. It's like, I don't think we're on track to get that by that time. And then all of a sudden you've got a bunch of doubt and kind of defensive reactions in the in the workshop, as opposed to like, I don't know where we're going.
Yeah.
But we're gonna go someplace for sure. And we could probably get in a time machine now and go to some place that's precisely the same date and end up somewhere in the world where it's like, I had no idea they were working on this. Look at this. This is amazing. Or weird or scary. So I think the time thing is a little bit of a setup, brought to you by commercial futurists.
Yeah. Shaban has a question about artifact versus object. Did you want to unpack that for him?
Let me see the question.
It says, I struggle to understand the difference between an archetype and an object. Map sounds like an object and muddles my brain up.
Yeah, so a map can be an object, and maybe on the other end of this, we will have an object if we constructed a map out of paper or something, or on a display. And it's also a type of thing. So it could be just a container for a set of ideas represented as a as a flat kind of 2D representation of a city. So I appreciate the brain muddle, and sometimes these things can sluice back and forth, but in this case, like, take it as a kind of container, as opposed to the object. I mean, it's like an advertisement is an archetype of a communication, type of communication, and it's also an advertisement, the thing that you see, in a page of a magazine.
Yeah, the definition of an object, you're right. It is a map is an object. The way I like to look at it is that I always look at the object as being more of the science fiction, and this being more of the design fiction. And the design fiction is, if you're we're these reverse archaeologists. We go into the future, we find a thing, and we want to bring it back to the present, and we want to show you, hey, this is what he found in the future. We'll get in this context. I don't think we would huck back a giant drone. I don't think it would fit in the janky time machine, but you know what? There's a map that was near it. So I'm going to grab that, and it's going to tell us the story of this drone. I'm going to grab the map and I'm going to bring that back. And I feel like the archetype is evidence. I like using the word evidence, but it hints at what it is. It isn't the technology. It's the evidence of the technology, or it's the evidence of the societal change. I hope that helps clarify how we're thinking of archetype versus object in these sets of cards.
Evidence is a good one, or implications, or a symptom of the world, like the archaeologist analogy, which isn't perfect, but like they just kind of get these artifacts, these like a physical object, a shard of pottery, or this kind of thing, and then it's meant to imply that, well, there were people here and they did certain things, and maybe, I don't know, this could have been something they cooked in, or something they used to situate themselves within the culture, or an amulet of some description, but you don't know what it is, and it's a clue. But it's a clue. It's like you're like a forensic detective. That's the other analogy.
Yeah.
Like, you're trying to make sense of what just happened here. What was here? What happened? And there's no one here to tell you.
Yeah, what's the thing you can sneak into your pocket?
There's a body in the bathtub. Oh, I don't know what
happened. Chris says something about are archetypes adjacent to the object, and I said, yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it. They're adjacent to the object. Let's see. Jason's got an idea: disposable spatial maps. I like that this little piece of design fiction, this idea. Is this quick little 3-word description. You took 4 cards and turned them into 3 words. That's amazing. All right. So I'm just going to freestyle and say some of the things that are going on in my head right now. And Julian, you can just pop in at any time. But yeah, okay. So I like the idea of a map. My brain goes into like, I love the design of maps. There are lots of different types of maps as they involve drones. I imagine the drone might be making the map. Or in the reverse, it's a map of drone activities. It's a map of like things that drones are doing. Like, you know, when you go on Google Maps, you can turn on the cycling route. Well, that's it. Like, it's a cycling route. Maybe there's a drone route you can turn on. That would be a good design fiction. You're looking at your screen and what you're seeing is like, choose to go by car, by transit, by bicycle, or by drone. And one of the filters would be take the playful route by drone. What does that mean? I don't know. Maybe it goes over.
I'm liking this.
Over houses with swimming pools, or and it'll let you drop. Or maybe you could hook up water balloons to your drone, and you can drop some water balloons along the way.
So part of what I'm feeling as you're
This is where
describing
discard comes in.
is that there's that it is it's a drone rich world.
Yeah.
And that there would be something like a map. I like the idea of a map of drone activity. And I even want to push it into a direction. So like drone it has such a kind of pejorative sensibility to it. I feel like because of the ways in which they're often used. And plus, I don't know, the DR part of it, drone just doesn't sound. So
you need to roll an R for that. Drone.
That's right. So I'm, part of me is wondering, like, if it was plus that image of the VTOL drone thing is a little bit austere. Wondering if there's a way of imagining that it's a world where these are like in beautiful service to normal, ordinary, everyday people. They're not the Eye of Saruman kind of drone vibe. And somehow this map, this map and the playful connection, I think maybe because of the playful, it's somehow, we want to represent that these are facilitating some kind of, pretty cool social dynamic of some description. The pool thing is interesting. Well, I wonder why you went to pools.
I know, pools seem playful. That seems like the playful thing to do.
Yeah.
All right, I like this idea. I'm trying to put together a little Miro board here that I'm going to try and plug into the video nozzle. I'll do that in a quick second to maybe capture some of these thoughts. But part of, I think, design fiction is that you're not trying to tell the whole story. You're trying to hint at the world. And what I love is that I'm not trying to be thorough in what I'm doing with the design fiction dailies. I'm literally picking one small thing to explore. And at the end of the session, I usually have just as many questions as anybody else would have looking at this. I've thought about it a little bit. I've got some ideas of where it might go, but I'm a lot more curious about what other people might conjure in their brains when they see something like this idea of this drone rich world, this map of sorts. So Julian, how did you end up tying on the playful and the discard? I got distracted there for a quick second.
Yeah, well, the playful, it tipped me into trying to imagine like it's where my mind went when I started thinking about, like, okay, drone, like I wanted to rehabilitate or invest the idea of a drone with not a kind of an annoyance, or at best or at worst a representation of a weapon or a surveillance state kind of vibe. Or wherever the sense making around drone goes in a not necessarily, doesn't sound like a very habitable world. Sounds like a place I want to avoid. And so just trying to think of how playful can be introduced. And I guess not the playful in the sense of a drone as a, as a toy, or like drone racing or that kind of thing. Like if there was a map, and these drones are kind of occupying the, the Class B airspace above our heads. What are they doing? You know, what are they facilitating? What kind of, are they doing something that isn't surveillance statey and isn't weapons-y kind of thing? And so what might that be? And why might everyone want a map? Like you arrive in some city, it's like, hey, could I have your, you know, where can I pick up a copy of the drone map? And then what is it, you know, I don't know if we have to say what it's necessarily showing, but just implying that, like, oh, if someone wants a map with a kind of happy-go-lucky tone to their inquiry, you know, at the coffee shop, it's like, I'm just trying to find the drone map for Tokyo. And your mind starts wondering, what would that be doing? What would it provide that person? And again, and maybe Dre, to your point, like not assuming that it's that it has to be not assuming that we have to answer the question. We're implying almost that. So what do we mean by that? Maybe a richer description or understanding is that, you know, there's like always the science fiction apocalypse movie. The one I'm watching now is I can't remember the name of it, just went on my head. Where something has happened, like you know, Cormac McCarthy's The Road. You'd never know what happened, but something happened. Some, you know, catastrophic planetary level existential event. And so now we're left in the apocalypse, right? And then so now you can tell a story about a father and his relationship with his son. But the implication is something planetary scale happened. Can you do the same thing with this drone map? So we don't know what they are or what they provide, but people want them. And if this were the premise of a movie that wasn't apocalyptic, you might sort of get a hint, like, okay, I get what's going on here. It's like an artifact of the larger world, which tells you as much about the world as you need. You don't need to go into the full description of what exactly it is and how it works and who runs it or this kind of thing. But even as I say that, my mind wants to go to that, to understanding what kind of world would there be, and what kind of world would it be in which there are drones that are doing something, you know, cool and interesting and helpful and all that kind of stuff. So someone wrote, Eric wrote, drone pollinators scurrying about the city from flower to flower. That's kind of cool. Maybe it could be a thing for I don't know, like here when there's the mega bloom in California after like a wet winter, and then the wildflowers bloom like crazy. Everyone's always going around looking to, where is it going to be? Where can I go and sort of camp out and see the bloom? Trying to imagine what it would be in the context of a large metropolitan area.
I've been just writing some stuff on the side, and I managed to figure out a little nozzle here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I like this, you know, here's our archetype, here's the map. I like this question of what are they doing? And you could take this in a lot of different places. The idea of focusing on the not evil, that's great. There's a few things. I'm sorry we're not being super timely with the chat, but there's a couple things like where drones drop off supplies for refugees. I like that, and I think that's probably even happening today. And I think this is a great way to blow that out even further. And it's like, well, what kind of supplies? If you want it to play in the playful, is it maybe dropping off toys specifically? Like maybe it's the non-vital supplies or stuff that just enriches quality of life.
Yeah.
So
something fun about it. I just sort of imagine that drones just like kind of parachute like treats. I don't know why they would do that. But what kind of world would it be if just like every once and again it's just kind of like, you know, here's a lollipop. It's just kind of floated down. Like yeah, there's something kind of completely nonsensical in a beautiful way about that.
Yeah, that's the other thing in terms of the style of design fiction that I enjoy playing with, and I know that Julian also does, is to play on the side of humor and play on the side of nonsensical, and maybe not deliver what would be the obviously optimal idea, but do something odd. Let somebody else figure that out and do something a little bit odd that inspires someone to get to the optimal idea. Because it could start off as, you know, okay, we're going to drop lollipops to people, and then that might inspire somebody to come up with their own idea, which is like, okay, well, let's drop vital supplies to people.
Oh, I was going to
own the idea. Yeah.
Starbucks, just like drone drop coffee. I can see the advertisement. Someone's just sitting there talking to someone. It's like, oh, here she comes. It just holds their hand out and is like, whoop, there's their
all right. So Dana's got a question here. Using the archaeologist analogy, we find a map of some sort in this future, and then we make connections to other cards. Yeah, that's a way of doing it, is we're either making a connection to the other cards, or the connection to the other card is what is infused in either the idea of the map or the idea of the object. So I think what we're talking about here is like, you know, is the map playful? It could be. Is the object playful? It could be. Are both playful? Yes, they could be as well. This is where right now I'm feeling this is a very generative session that we're having. Like, we're starting to come up with a lot of concepts, and one of these I'll scamp up as the Design Fiction Daily for later today, if I find the time, to formalize it and turn it into something visual that I would normally do. Yes, it could be. Again, there are no rules. These are prompt cards that are designed to spark the imagination, to shortcut you having to think of the options. It's a starting point. It's really all it is. And then another one, Dana, that you mentioned, I love how the thought shifts paradigm from drone as a weapon to a drone as a positive thing. And yeah, I think this is the classic, you know, what if it was the opposite of what you know it as? That's always a great place to play. I'm starting to make a list of characteristics for design fiction, because I'm noticing that you can play like the opposite idea. You know, weapons become toys, or toys become weapons. That's an interesting place to play. Or you can do what I call extremely ordinary, where something that is normally taken for granted today ends up becoming this really big deal later on. I don't have a concrete example for that at the moment. And then there's like absurd things. I know we've mentioned stuff about like the Nabisco corporate military, like what happens when corporations become so powerful. It's absurd. It's a bit of a scary idea, but you know, like there's this nugget of potential truth in everything that's always worth exploring. But yeah, I think Edward de Bono's 6 thinking hats, the idea is that you can shift the cap of your hat in different directions depending on what mood you're in that day. As the drone flies. That's good. Yes. Actually, that's funny. As the drone flies. That's what they would have said in Game of Thrones if it was Game of Drones. Map of anti-drone shooter stations. That's funny because that is so true. There's always someone complaining about drones. Every time I see somebody post a drone shot on Reddit, they're like, if I had my gun. Burning Man, like music drones. Map as a scavenger hunt for parties. That's interesting. That makes me think of like orienteering, and how maybe there's drone orienteering that kids go with their parents to the park. Maybe that makes me think that could be to play with the playful aspect. What if drone orienteering became a new thing that the Scouts offered?
What's that? What's drone orienteering?
I know orienteering, where it's like
finding your way through the woods or whatever.
Yeah, finding your way through the woods, like learning how to use a compass and read moss on trees, and spatial awareness in the forest, okay. But applied to drones. This is what like Scouts would do, but like imagine if drones was part of the Scout curricula. That'd be hilarious. UFO sighting map that's been filled in due to many drone sightings. Oh yeah, am I drone or known? That's what you would call, am I drone or not? Let's see. I like the pollinators one. That's a good one.
There was a project I worked on probably 25 years ago now. This was all pre Google Maps, where it was with this art organization called iBeam. We went around Manhattan and identified all the surveillance cameras, and we almost did it like field like wildlife observers, so
The
that
Audubon guide to surveillance cameras.
yeah, and so we
This is
would
a speckled surveiller.
we would mark where it was, and there was a whole list of different types of surveillance cameras, like domed ones, and operation. Say they had all these beautiful schematic or line drawings of them, and it was part of a project to be able to create a routing map that avoided cameras, so you could actually route from A to B. It was beautiful. It was all pre Google Maps, so it was kind of remarkable to create that technology. It's sort of the inverse. Like if there were a drone, maybe a map would be how to avoid the drones, where to go to avoid the drones.
There's a liked comment by Natalie about drone maps for garbage collection. Maps show up at points in neighborhoods where garbage collection. Okay, so you can discard items for huge but delightfully playful drones to collect. I like this idea, and it makes me think of Japan. I know in Tokyo it's impossible to find a garbage can anywhere. Meanwhile, the city is super, super clean. And I could imagine a world where maybe if you have to discard something, I'm done with my candy wrapper. You just grab your phone, summon a drone, it flies by. You stuff it in its little drone claws, then it flies away with your candy wrapper and disposes of it. I think that's an awesome little idea. Let's see here.
Yeah, I like this trip. What would the merit badge look like for? Because one of the
Yeah.
archetypes, Dre, is the
So good.
embroidered patch, right? Actually, that's a
Yeah.
good one because it kind of looks like, if I remember correctly, it
Yeah.
looks like a scout patch.
It's
That's
funny. I made,
beautiful. That's amazing. Like,
yeah.
level 1 scout, merit badge. I guess they are. Doesn't have to be Boy Scout. Just be scouts.
Yeah. You're right. Sorry. Just
Old
full
school.
on scout. Sorry, I don't want to get in trouble here. I love it. Yeah, that's
Self-discarding drones.
self-discarding drones.
I'm done. I'm out. I'm just gonna yeah, and of course it like dives into a ditch and kind of becomes part of the ecosystem or something.
So I'm just imagining. I play with drones, so I've had drones break on me. But maybe if those drones that have like one propeller's out, the three other ones will like just take it to the landfill.
Yeah.
Just hover above the landfill and then die.
Or to the recycle center.
I mean, I think the landfill will just become the recycle center one of these days. It'll
Right.
just be full of these little robot drones picking away at it.
Right. Try finding the good stuff.
Yeah. Let's see
And,
here.
like, just the idea of self-discarding Dre, that's like I could see the, and maybe it's just like because for the most, I mean, more than I do, but drones are they're pretty, you don't just get one on a whim. It's kind of like, a bit of an investment, and you hope it lasts as long as possible. But the idea that you walk into a bodega and you're like, oh look, they've got the Nabisco drone,
Yeah.
the 24-hour drone, and you're like, cool, this is great, this is all I need. I'm only going to be around for 24 hours, less than a day, so this thing can follow me around and do my selfie thing, capture all the stuff, do my broadcast, and when I'm done, when I head to the airport, I just kind of throw it in the bin. And it's like made of, I don't know, it's made of something that makes it feel like, I don't know, like the same way you might you go to the beach and you're like, damn it, I forgot my sun hat. And you get one that you don't really care all that much about. Like, I just need to really protect.
Well, it's just a drone with a sombrero that just hovers above your head all day.
Keeps the sun away from you.
Yeah. Oh, that's totally gonna happen. Sombrero drone. I don't know how to write sombrero. Come on. Does it do there we go. Okay, that's too funny. Lee did I like this idea. I like this the map could be a representation of a game board. Because that's really what a game board is, right? It's a map of playfulness. It's how you get around. I like this. I like that lateral thought. Let's see, Hunger Games world. What do I say? Agents and yeah, a drone that anticipates your needs. I can't click on links right now because I think I'm going to destroy my setup if I do anything like that. Map of drone ad-free zones. See, that's unfortunately going to be a thing. That's not even going too far in the future. I think we're going to start to see drones flying around, like the equivalent of the banners on the back of airplanes.
Right at the beach.
It's just at a smaller scale. It's going to come right by your head.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm only hitting the merit badge comment here. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. So funny. Okay. I feel like based on just this session here, we've covered a lot of ground and found
There's a ton of stuff here.
Some interesting ideas. There's like a week of design fiction dailies right there that I could sink my teeth into.
Yeah, burner.
Yeah, and that's not it. That's not everything. I'll
burner
have to.
Drone. It's the burner drone. The burner drone. The anti-burner drone.
Yeah, the anonymous burner drone. Because right now you have to put your information on your drone. If you register your drone in Canada or the United States, you have to have your name and your phone number on it. You have to register with the United States version. I forget what they're called. The FAA. Which I've registered mine with the FAA, but yeah, and then Trip, they are using like just DJI consumer drones in Ukraine. Like that's like the same hobby drone I have is what they're using, and they're just kitting them. They're kitting them out. That's really, really good. All right, so let's do this. We got a bit of time. I'm in no hurry. Julian, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Looks like we still have some people hanging out. So we'll let's do another little quick session, see if we can come up with some other ideas. Is there another technique, or did somebody want to come and join the party? Because we have the ability to unmute people. And
so the one step that we didn't do is actually do the production. And Trip asks Dre, how do you come up with a professional looking photo each day?
Okay.
He drinks lots of Red Bull, and
I don't drink any Red Bull. I do drink a lot of water and sometimes a soda stream in the water. So Trip, that's something I definitely want to dig into. I think for today's session, this is a bit of a test in showing off what we're doing here with the cards. I realize I'm not showing the cards anymore. Boom. So this is it. This is like, technically, I think this is the hard part, is coming up with the ideas. It's the fun part. It's the hard part. And then the convergent part, where you try to bring it all together and turn it into something. That's definitely something I'm going to want to do. Probably the next one is quickly come up with an idea and then execute it from beginning till end, so you can see the process.
Yeah.
But
you can start digging into like the actual material techniques, like how are you using Midjourney, or how are you using Shutterstock or Shot Deck or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm mainly using, to just tell you what I'm doing right now, I'm mainly using Midjourney as the tool to help come up with visuals. I do have an account with Envato Elements, and they have a lot of stock assets, including mockups. So there's no point in reinventing the wheel when somebody's already created the mockup of something out there, and all I have to do is change the label on the packaging. However, I never stop at just changing the label on the mockup. I always like to play with the maybe change the background, make it my own. I don't want somebody to look at it and go, oh, this is the mock-up that Dre used to make his Design Fiction Daily. So I'll change the background. I'll play with the lighting. I'll mess with the colors. I'll just do things to turn it into my own. And I would say the same thing with a lot of AI stuff. I often don't just take the wholesale render that Midjourney gives me. And I like to get in there and either I'll add stuff, the type elements. I'll do multiple renders and composite my favorite stuff together. And then I use a lot of Illustrator. I do all my layouts in Illustrator. I do all my mockups in Photoshop. And whether you're using Creative Cloud, Adobe Designer, or not Adobe, Affinity Designer and Affinity Photo are viable. Or if you want to do it for free, you can use Inkscape or the GIMP. There's tons of tools at everyone's disposal. You could even just do it in Canva. That would be something I would consider doing, is even coming up with, like, what are the low budget design fiction production ideas? Like, hey, let's just use Canva, something everyone's got access to, or let's even try to build something using Google Slides.
Yeah. Yeah.
A friend of ours did a world running document in Google Word. What it was, Google, what is Word called? Pages or whatever it's called.
Google Docs.
Google Docs. There you go. See, and like, that's a piece of design fiction as far as I'm concerned. And it was done in Google Docs. So many tools out there. But yeah, I'll definitely want to do that. Yeah, and actually, it's a good point, Nick, putting links to where you can find good design resources. That I might even create a design fiction directory of some of the resources that I use, and I might even
That'd be great, like a little, just an index to these different tools. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about just creating archetype mockups on my end. Like, just here's the archetype. I can create a Photoshop mockup. You can just download the layers and plug in your words, and now you've got that. So that could be really fun.
Yeah.
A fun thing to do.
We did have that project that it would be fun to get back to, which was Isabella had the idea of doing a book of archetypes.
Yeah.
Of a whole bunch of different kinds of event tickets, a whole bunch of different kinds of I don't know, name all the archetypes, maps, tourist guides, all that kind of stuff, just to provide that as a visual reference, identity cards, things found in wallets, all that stuff.
All right, so here's what I'm thinking. We're gonna do a fun little thing.
Yeah, this is Nick. I'm breaking the fourth wall. I'm busting here. I'm coming over the loud system because what I think is really interesting, and a lot of folks here have been commenting, I can't write fast enough. It's awesome. Mm-hmm. And what I really get from a lot of folks is a lot of how-to still, is just, going from the cards, through the mirror board and then out to what you're doing. And I think it would be really cool for each one of your design fiction dailies, very similar to what you were saying, just list all of the different platforms that you hit in order to create that one, each entry, daily entry. I mean, it's going to have the standard Adobe, but like particular mockup generator, or with each one have all those resources listed, I think would be really cool.
Yeah, I've got a couple of entries on Design Fiction Daily that are paywalled, or they're for the paid, and for the paid subscribers, and I walk through what I'm using, where I'm getting stuff. I even have some time-lapse videos of me working in Illustrator and Photoshop. I've even used, this is going to be another workshop thing that I want to do, is I use ChatGPT. I've built design fiction generator prompts in ChatGPT where you, one of them is just like, I say, give me fiction, and it just generates design fiction. And another one is a workshop facilitator where it asks you which cards you've pulled, and then it synthesizes some thought starters for you. And in those posts, they're long posts, it's clear that I don't really use what it tells me, but I do use it as inspiration to generate ideas. So what I did here is to I just threw out some random cards. Let's see, I've got an identity card here. We've got a branded beverage as an object. There's a generative pre-trained attribute and a patrol action.
Oh. Mm.
And this is where I'm
Are we
wondering
bringing
if
someone up from the studio coming down to the stage? Did we decide that or no?
yeah, if anybody from the studio audience would like to come to the stage, we can unmute you and we can just play with this. Or if you looking at these cards have any ideas, just drop them in the chat. I think this is just kind of the fun freestyle. Julian and I did some freestyling, and it only got better when everyone got involved. So I think that
Yeah, raise your hand if you want to.
Yeah, raise your little Zoom hand. Yeah, people are dropping out. It's been about an hour, but we're going to stick around for a bit. Anybody who wants to continue to play, we're still playing. It could be one at a time. It could be a few people. Makes no difference.
So we got identity card, branded beverage, generative pre-trained patrol. Wow.
Jason, you interested in joining?
You just shove him on the stage.
No, I think he
I'm here.
Hey, man.
I love this. I like this one.
Yeah, Jason's a good friend of mine. He's the guy behind the creative algorithm that I recommend on my blog, and I talk to design fiction with him all the time, which is super fun. But what do you got any ideas?
Yeah, I love the idea of a patrol guard at a, I don't know, some kind of a company or out in the middle of nowhere, but where they're identified by either their coffee mug or their thermos, and it's actually created every single day when they come into work, and it's what they hold and it's what they carry around with them, and it's to identify that they're a legitimate security guard, I suppose. So it's actually generated every single time they come in, and it's based on, I don't know, either a keyword of theirs or something, but it's a form of identification that nobody would be able to see. Maybe it's like they'd be undercover, so you don't know that they're actually a guard of some sort, but they could be identified by the other people that work there. I don't know any more.
Well, you know what? It made me think while you were saying that. It made me think of, like, when you bought a coffee at a different coffee shop and you're meeting your friend at a different coffee shop, and then you feel bad because you're walking into a Starbucks with like a second cup coffee. And I'm just imagining, like, what happens in a world where these patrol bots know, they look for you. Do you have the right branded mug in our branded environment? Or even a worse offense would be somebody with like a Starbucks thermos mug that just puts, like, I don't know, like a Keurig coffee in it in the morning at home, and Starbucks is like, no, only Starbucks goes in that mug. And we have patrol robots that are pre-trained to detect the vapor and aroma emanating from your thermos mug, and we can tell if it's genuine Starbucks or not. And if it's not, we will pour it out in front of you.
Yeah, or maybe the Starbucks has just got some kind of tracer characteristics in the actual coffee, so it's just detected by some sensor. I know what you mean. It's interesting to think about that. Like it's not a very I think we're laughing because we're kind of like, this will be the future that we end up getting for our sins.
Yeah, that's exactly the future we're getting.
Yeah. Brand bouncers. I like it. Brand bouncers.
Yeah, brand bouncers. Good. Touche.
That's a good one. Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because that's a like, you sort of in this thing you sort of wondering like you're not necessarily ending up with like a actual thing, but you came up with an idea for a thing. It's called brand bouncers. Like maybe that's a it's a new role. That's what they're called. They're not, it sounds like nice and polite. Better than a security guard, because that always has that kind of negative connotation to it. But now they're just called brand bouncers. Sounds a little bit more fun. Like, right? Bouncers are only places where people have fun and they start having too much fun. So they need to be told to leave. I like it. I think it's a good example of where the deck can lead you. And so if you expect it to lead you, you expect too much that it's going to lead you in one particular direction, you're expecting too much about what the conclusion might be. I don't know. There's a good chance of being disappointed, as opposed to the unstructured play. I didn't know that we could build a spaceship out of a piece of cardboard and an old umbrella, but look, we managed to do it. Doesn't look like a spaceship that I know, but feels like one. They're sent to coffee shops to get rid of the competition. A friend of mine has a chocolate business with a very nice retail shop, and he got into disputes with and he served coffee. There was another chocolate shop that wanted to show him up, and so started giving those people with the platter with the demonstration or the sample coffee, started doing that right in front of his shop. It was so obnoxious, and it was also kind of a little bit slightly pathetic in the way the children from Succession are ultimately pathetic. It's just kind of like, what are you doing? Grow up.
I love that we got brand bouncers from the last one. All right, I pulled a few more cards. Let's see. The first one is retail signage. I know it's hard to read, and now I've got the sun shining through things. The second one is imaging thing. The third one is the attribute is artificially intelligent, which is kind of close to what we did before. So why don't we change that? Why don't we say it listens? It's an imaging thing that listens. And the action is to repurpose.
Retail signage, imaging thing, listens. Here's a thought of where my brain goes when I'm doing some design fiction. I'm making a connection now, and there are I know that there's some technologies, there's some video technology that can detect the vibration on glass, the microscopic movement of vibration on glass, and only through the visual vibration it can actually create the sound that was creating that vibration. So that's an actual MIT technology that's playing around. So this is an example of a connection might be made, and I know that this exists, and I've thought about it, and today's innovation might become tomorrow's commonplace technology that we all take for granted. So this makes me think of it's like the same way that it's a signage for a store that is like the way there was a film development, a photo lab, but you bring your video, and what it'll do is it'll listen to the video, and it'll try to find the sounds that were inside your video. So you can bring your old Super 8 film that's silent, and it'll look for the vibrations on the hard surfaces nearby and try to detect microscopic things and try to extract the sound of like a long lost loved one's voice when they were younger from that, using whatever, ChatGPT. Store recycler for used cans and bottles you can use to improve your social scoring and get a coupon for brand scanned by the recycler.
Nice.
I like that. And the listening part. I wonder if that, I mean, it doesn't have to be. I like the thing where it scans because it sees, but then what is it listening for? What could be an interesting thing it listens for?
Well, a couple things that, it could listen in the literal sense, but it could listen to you in the anticipatory sense.
Like, what do you mean? Here's the final slurp of a can of soda.
When people are like, I feel heard, when somebody like when somebody says something that relates to you, or they're listening to you on an emotional sense, or like they get you empathy or sympathy, like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be audio listening. It could be emotional listening.
Yeah.
It anticipates your needs because it's paying attention.
I like that, because that just moved it moved the action in front. It's like it's a repurpose, the implication, recycling and reuse and circular economy kind of vibes.
I like Natalie put a comment in there. It's retail signage that changes depending on what people are using the space for and or buying the most. Listening devices
That's
work.
cool.
Yeah,
That's
listening devices work this out. So what that makes me think of? This makes me think of like a neon sign. You see a neon sign where it's like when half of it is off, it says one thing, and then like it's like a double entendre.
Give me an example. What do you mean?
I just think the word believe.
Yeah.
Like some of the letters disappear and you have the word lie in the middle.
Like by accident because the neon's out or something?
It could be accident. It could be stylistic because the art director on the film said, hey, we should have a sign that flickers a very specific way.
Yeah.
But I'm just imagining, like, what if we were doing this type of visual double entendre, two words that change based on what's being heard around? Because space can be used very differently. Like in one day, a commercial space might be used very commercially, but maybe another day that commercial space might be used more like a public space to just hang out and have a picnic. People would rather be sitting outside in the sun than inside the shops. So the sign goes from buying, getting something on sale to like get an ice cold something instead, because it knows that everyone's hot and complaining that they're thirsty.
I like it.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, I'll flip a couple more cards and then we will bring this to, oh, look at this. The archetype's a surprise. What's it going to be? Hygiene product.
Okay.
So hygiene product. We have an apparatus. I love that word. Augmented and institutionalized. A hygiene product.
When it's coupled with apparatus, I start going towards
I think of,
go on.
I was gonna say, I just think of like VR headset moisturizing cream. Like as we start using more devices, do we have like anti-chafing hand creams for holding your phone all day long?
Right. Right. Or yeah, just like the things like what you're gonna have.
It's a grease-free cream that won't get on your screen, but it'll keep your hands protected by this from the sun, SPF 30.
Yeah, you're totally gonna have this kind of stuff. Like different, whether it's legit or whether it's just kind of playing into people's fears. Chap screen. Yeah. Like a special eyelid moisturizers.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the institutionalized?
Oh, institutionalized. That's a tough one. What does that mean?
It could be something like where it's like this is like FDA approved, in the US, like Food and Drug Administration kind of dealio, or
authorized by Apple.
4 out of 5 VR medical professionals advise the use of this.
It's authorized by Apple.
Yeah, that kind
it'll
of.
It'll only dispense the cream through a lightning cable.
And that could appear just as like a little, like a little very simple little authorization bug, like a little logo.
Exactly.
That implies an entire apparatus of institutions behind the sanctioning or advisory of it. Like in some toothpaste will have, the dental association mark on
Yeah.
it. Sure.
Yeah, it implies, it hints at an entire infrastructure, an entire institutional infrastructure. Maybe there's training, maybe it's institutionalized and that you need special training to apply it. Or license to buy it.
Roller, prescription medicine applicator for optical glitch syndrome experienced by VR. Totally, it's just like the face sync is off in my eyes. And there are these drops.
Well, we just like all those words,
like a VR eyes. It was like a drop kind of thing, that with the same implication. You know, the same idea of like, yeah, of course they're going to be for overexposure to blue light. You could just use these drops.
Okay, that's a fantastic one. I just like the idea of VR suffering from VR eyes.
Yeah,
the eye re-roller.
Suffering from VR eyes, augmented reality drying you out.
Oh, geez. I'm just writing that down because that might have to become something. Preparation H becomes prep VR, or it's just preparation R, preparation reality. Yeah, a free low energy dose public radiotherapy walkthrough apparatus. This is poetry. That's just poetry. That's great. All right. All right. So how about we start to wrap this up? Get some clothing thoughts. What are your thoughts on clothing? This was a fun session. I think we got a lot of good ideas out of there. I think this was really, really generative. I hope that this unlocked a few things in your mind about how you could use this. And again, this is just one way that we're using this. There's no right way or wrong way. You can use all the cards. You can use some of the cards. You can even add other cards. We have a member on the Discord that likes to incorporate a tarot card along with the work kit to just add an extra flavor to what's going on. So I think there's a lot that you can do in terms of these cards, and it's an open space. It's almost like it's an open source game. You can come up with your own rules, and if you do come up with any rules, feel free to jump on the Discord and share them with us.
Yeah, Trip
and then speaking of the
turn his job into this.
Yeah. And speaking of the Discord, there's been a whole bunch of links put in the chat to join the NFL Discord. The Near Future Laboratory Discord is a pretty fantastic place. There's a lot of people on there doing a lot of interesting things. There's a bunch of us that are actively working on products from the future, including a trip in the janky time machine like we're doing today. And Julian's got all his podcast, general seminar, all kinds of interesting things to stay in tune. So if you do join, feel free to jump into the Work Kit Creations thread. You'll see that there's been some activity in there. Will and myself, Drew and myself have created some design fictions in there. So if you create anything that you've got the kit and you come up with anything, feel free to throw down and share your creations. This is all about practicing this thing we call design fiction, sharing it with the world, and making it bigger, better, and more fun.
Longer
also that you can
life.
Imagine harder.
Yeah, imagine harder. This is good stuff, Dre. designfictiondaily.com. Design Fiction Daily with Dre, the Design Fiction Daily show.
Yeah, it's like jazzercise with the future.
That's right.
But hey, is it going to be a daily or a weekly? It would be funny just to make it a weekly. The Design Fiction Daily show every week.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's happened? It's called designfictiondaily.com, and I was literally doing it 7 days a week, and I now do it Monday through Friday. And I haven't missed a beat for, I don't know, 7 months now. And I do a little bit. I do mostly creating design fiction, but every once in a while I'll pick a movie or a TV show that I like, and I like to explore the design fiction elements that are inside, beyond the protagonist, and in the background, and inspect some of that. And occasionally I'll do Work It Wednesday. I've done a dozen of those, similar to what we're doing here, but I just use the cards to inspire, and I tend to write that entry as a stream of consciousness. I just write it as I do it. But everything I do there is I do it as quickly as I can to get it out there. It's the speed run for the day. And I try not to let perfectionism get in the way, and I do the best I can. And now I go back and I look at stuff I don't even remember that I created that. And I'm like, oh, this is good. This is good. And in hindsight, it's great. And I think when I published it, I was probably maybe a little bit disappointed, or like, it didn't meet my my standards, but it did. I just didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. All right. Anything else? Nick, do you have anything else?
No, I was just typing in there that if anybody had any feedback, I guess, for you guys on the pilot, to get over to the NFL Discord, and posted that link there.
Yeah, please.
There.
Yes,
And
sorry, go on.
obviously find Julian and Dre elsewhere on social and wherever you might have heard about this, and share some feedback. I know the guys would appreciate hearing some, how can we do better? Already, look, I mean, you got a lot of people still hanging on after an hour, and that's
Yeah, they're
folks,
not. They're
folks that are definitely
got nothing
willing
going
to
for lunch.
yeah.
I commend your persistence and tenacity.
Yeah. I was gonna say, so when you join the Discord, the way the mechanics work is that you join and then introduce yourself so that we know you're a human, and then I have Augie throw a lever, and then you get access to most of the rest of the channels, and then an invitation from me to grab a coffee. We have a coffee, and then another lever is thrown, and you get access to even like all the projects. We're doing a magazine from the future of fashion. We're doing a magazine from the future of Hollywood or filmed entertainment, and we're got a bunch of new books. Dre's also showrunner on ABC Solarpunk, which is a book that we found once we got on the Janky Time Machine. We ended up in someone's kind of cluttered living room, found a book. Turns out it was a children's book. We brought it back, and it tells us all the stories about the Solarpunk future. I mean, just tons of projects going on. And so the question is like, how do I turn this into a job? Well, this is when we start. Like, join the Discord and get involved in a project. And if we do that enough, I'm so confident that there will be old-fashioned style jobs to do this. I'm so confident. I feel like we're at the point now where we're just at the edge of this kind of imaginative practice being just a routine kind of. I'm design fiction specialist level 3. What are you? Level 1, not to brag. So let's get involved, everyone. Yeah. It's this a point where Augie comes into the studio with his clipboard and headphone and says like, okay, we're out.
Yeah.
We're clear.
I was thinking if we had a great old game show lead out, that's what we could close with. I don't have one queued up in my digicart.
Oh, we'll have to make one. Yeah.
I'm going to get on that. It's
So
really
the
nice.
song starts playing, and then the host goes around and shakes the hand of all the contestants and makes light banter. The credits roll. Filmed in front of a live studio Zoom audience, straight from Studio City, Los Angeles.
Yeah, insert audience clap track.
That's right. Yeah. All right.
All right. I need to make an outro and a soundboard. Add that to my list.
Yeah. And then we'll put this up on some channel. I'm curious to see what it looks like. Now we're just doing banter, because on my end, your top-down camera is a little bit low resi.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a better camera. I didn't have time to take out the good camera. That's why today's session's a bit janky, but yeah, very a little bit low resi, more like a lot low resi.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's an old CRT tube camera.
Yeah. And then I don't know, Dre, like now we're having fun. It's like get a bit of green screen material so the cards are actually floating in the vaporous transitory space
Yeah.
kind of vibe. Could be another not well use of time, or maybe the perfect use of time. Although I do like your that selection of raw pine that you got there.
Yep, that's just a plank of wood on a pair of
That's not rendered?
no, that's not rendered.
Just kidding.
Hey, Mr. Render Man, because you render everything.
Yeah, render all the things. Well, why'd you render it? You could just take a picture of it. It's like it's not as much fun.
Patricio, you asked why poetry? I'm assuming you're referring to when I said that it was poetry that you mentioned before. Those words, just poetry. Sometimes a string of sentences, a string of words that just flow off the tongue, that's just poetry. So that's what I was getting from that.
Does anyone want to unmute and ask questions? I got another 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, I got 4 minutes.
You now have the ability to unmute. I can't unmute. Try again. I just threw the switch.
Oh, you might not have a microphone.
Yes.
Oh, here he is.
Do you listen?
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, I misunderstood the tone of your answer. I don't know if it was a plus, a compliment, or negative.
No, it was a compliment. It was totally a compliment.
It was not the intention to sound poetic.
No,
it was just a first talk, and the first talks are usually not the best. I'm sorry, I came late. I know. I'll try to be more punctual next time.
Oh no, it was great. It was a great answer. I just loved it was just a good string of words that combined like a technology and an idea, and I was like, that's good.
I thought in Futurama Killing Booth, something like that.
Oh yeah,
with the ability to sense where you have a tumor and you can do your daily therapy and for free or for being exposed to advertisement, maybe.
Yeah. No, that's a good one.
Yeah. Well, when will be this carry on next time?
I don't know when the next one will be, but I feel like I enjoyed doing this. I think we probably want to do it sooner rather than later. I think the next one, what we'll do is a quick session with the cards, land on an idea and start executing it, and just show what it looks like when I'm in Photoshop, when I'm in Illustrator, when I'm sketching out the idea. I feel like 90 minutes is a comfortable time to speed run through an idea. Then everyone gets a sense of what it looks like to move as quickly as you can at the speed of thought.
Yeah. And we'll plan it further ahead than whatever 36 hours.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for showing up on such short notice. That's really awesome.
Yes.
I was looking forward, but right now we're at the end of the semester. I'm working as a full-time teacher. This is my place, and now I will have time to participate more in the activities of the near future lab.
Love it.
That's great.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right, I got my next call in 15 minutes, so I'm gonna clear my head.
Yep.
Thanks for coming along, and hope to see you in the Discord. And Dre, Nick will debrief at some point.
Yep.
I'll get the tape from Augie in the recording room. Hopefully he didn't spill a coffee on it like last time.
Yeah, that Augie.
Yeah, the writer's room is empty right now, so it should be a good place to.
Can you use that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or are we not using it out of respect and a sense of?
No, we paid for it, so we're still using it. We leased the whole building, so we're still using it.
Check.
Right.
Are they still outside? Are they still making a ruckus?
Some of them. I brought lunches.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna take him some water.
Nice.
All right. I'm
Out.
janky time machine's running on E. I'm running on vapors. I'm gonna have to go find a gas station.
EV service.
Right.
Yeah.
Biofuels.
All
Right
right,
on.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. See you in the future.
Bye, everyone. Bye.